Kempire is brought to you by. Thank you to Washington, D.C. for an amazing Kempire After Dark experience. Our sold-out show at Union Stage was amazing. But don't forget, we are coming to Philly on March 7th. Boston, we're coming May 30th. Atlanta, we're coming July 12th. More dates will be announced about the Kempire After Dark live tour. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at TheKempire for updates, on Twitter for updates. Just make sure your notifications are on. But if you are in Philly or if you're in Boston, or Atlanta, get your tickets now. More information on the Kempire After Dark experience will be available in the description of this episode. You're listening to Kempire on the Kempire Radio Network. Yes, welcome back, guys. This is a special podcast exclusive. There won't be a visual version. There won't be, any video for you guys to watch in regards to this. Will be exclusively for the podcast. And shout out to those of you that listen to the podcast and you watch the content. And I get it. I put out a lot of content. It's hard to keep up with everything. But it is Black History Month. We only have less than 9 days left of Black History Month. So I found this amazing account on Instagram. And as always, we cite our sources, Black History Unlocked. So be sure to follow them. I'll post the links in the description of this episode. And I'm just so enthralled by some of the content that they've been sharing. So for the next few days, I'm going to share some of my favorite Black history facts that I've discovered from this account and probably other accounts as well. As you know, the world is celebrating Beyoncé's new album, Act 2, which we assume is going to be a country album based off of the two singles that she's just released, 16 Carriages and Texas Hold'em. This has opened up the door for so many other Black women and Black men that are in country music that have been doing it for a long time in country music. So I want to just highlight that. So many people have been checking in on K. Michelle. She says, there is no need to check on me. I am doing very well in country music, and I'm happy where I am in country music. But when an artist like Beyoncé and at her height is able to bring even more attention, because I think all of those Black artists that are already in country music are now being discovered because of Beyonce's influence, and fans are now like, well, yeah, I want to get into it. And some people don't even know that country music was created by Black people. So this is part of the reason why people are assuming that Act 3 will be rock music, because that's another area of music that people don't realize that Black people created. She first started with ballroom and the Black influence there, and now we're in country. And so many people already are giving Beyoncé backlash. I'm not here to highlight those people, but she's already became the top artist on the country chart. I think she's like the first Black woman to top the country charts. But I think a lot of people are sort of like, she's appropriating. And I'm like, really? Right? First of all, Beyoncé is from Texas. So even if she wasn't, even if you were like, look, here's the thing. Beyoncé is also from Texas. So she grew up on country music. She grew up on this as a part of her upbringing. All right. But even if she didn't, I feel like she has every right to celebrate country music. I've always loved country music. For those that even hear my song Will You on Spotify, shameless plug, but that song is rooted not in R&B, but country music. So I wanted to give you a little bit of history behind country music, because even Black people are now discovering that country music has its roots and was created by Black people. So our friends over at Black History Unlocked on Instagram posted this, and they says, never forget, Black people created country music. And they say this, similar to other genres of music like rock, jazz, and pop, country music is indebted to African and African American traditions. However, commercial decisions by white industry executives led to their exclusion from the genre for decades. So DeFord Bailey made history as the Grand Ole Opry's first Black performer and country music's first Black star. They continue, they said, country music is known for its use of the banjo, which originates in Africa. The banjo was created by enslaved people and their descendants in the Caribbean and North America. From the earliest references in the 17th century and through the 1830s, the banjo was exclusively known as an African American tradition with a West African heritage. The banjo was standardized, appropriated, and spread to white audiences via minstrel and blackface shows, which deeply influenced the rise of hillbilly music, a term that would later be rebranded as, quote, country music. The blackface performer Emmett Miller's Lovesick Blues inspired country music singer Hank Williams' own rendition of the song, which is still one of the most beloved songs in country history. Majority of the songs that early hillbilly artists played were inherited and adapted from black origins, like enslaved people, spirituals, field songs, religious hymnals, or the works of black songwriters. Sidebar, I've been also discovering on Instagram when you look at some of your favorite luxury designers and some of their designs are influenced by African tribes, but these African tribes have never been credited and they've never received any sort of monetary compensation for this influence. We're looking at you, Louis Vuitton. They're one of many. They're just starting to show up. I guess the algorithm is algorithming. So in the PBS documentary, Country Music, filmmaker Ken Burns traced back how When the World is on Fire, a hymn arranged by a black minister, was turned into the Carter family's 1928 hit, Little Darling Pal of Mine, which was later turned into Woody Guthrie's famous quintessential This Land Is Your Land. A history professor at Missouri University of Science and Technology, Patrick Huber, wrote in his 2013 essay, Black Hillbillies, African American Musicians on Old Time Records, 1924 to 1932. He describes the startling variety of hillbilly music, which featured a higher frequency of integrated sessions than any other genre except vaudeville blues. Almost 50 African American singers and musicians, he writes, appeared on commercial hillbilly records between those years. Because the music was not a white agrarian tradition, despite a fluid phenomenon passed back and forth between the races. As hillbilly music became a commercial product in the 1920s, record labels started dividing their releases into, quote, hillbilly records and, quote, race records, under the assumption that consumers bought music according to their race. Many of the black performers on hillbilly records went unaccredited or were even scrubbed from the marketing images in favor of white stand-ins. Sidebar, Tiffany Red, you know the songwriter? If you listen to or you watch our Tuesday Takeover, we highlighted her struggles in the music industry and her accusing other black artists of not accrediting the appropriate people for music and them taking a percentage of something that they haven't written. So this is what makes it feel even worse when you think about it, because you're like, you guys are perpetuating what has been done to us as black people for a long time. So Black History Unlocked continues, and they say this: the genre was quickly positioned as an authentic return to the music of the idyllic rural white mountain South, in direct opposition to the black modern dance music of the era. The marketing scheme meant that many black artists were moved to the margins of country music, even if they remained influential behind the scenes. Leslie Riddle, a black guitar player, helped A.P. Carter of the Carter family hone his repertoire of mountain songs and greatly influenced the finger-picking guitar style of the Maybelle Carter, who is considered one of the most influential guitarists of all time. Rufus Teapot Payne mentored a young Hank Williams. Gus Cannon taught a young Johnny Cash. Bill Monroe, dubbed the father of bluegrass, talked of his indebtedness to the guitarist Arnold Schultz. However, all of those black artists would be vastly eclipsed by their mentees. So this is part of why I wanted to do these quick little Black history factoid moments, because there are big conversations happening now behind Beyonce doing country music. People say, oh, they're not even good country songs. She doesn't even sound country on the songs. But we have to remember what we are basing our thought process on what country music is supposed to sound like is what white America has said it should sound like, not what it originally sounded like. And I hate when we try to put music in general into a box. And I'm excited to see what else Beyonce will do on Act 2, because very much like the first single from Act 1, Break My Soul, I didn't really love that song, but it wasn't a bad song. It was everything else on the project that stood out to me. So I'm looking forward because, first of all, this is really true to Beyonce's upbringing, and it's also true to our culture. And I have a feeling she's going to be making big, bold statements on very much what we just went through. As always, guys, we cite our sources over here, so be sure to follow Black History Unlocked on Instagram. More information on them will be available in the description of this special podcast episode. Happy Black History Month, and thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning into Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. The Kempire Radio Network is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and plenty of other places. But don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on both Apple Podcasts and on Spotify because it matters. Thanks to everyone that has already given us a 5-star review. We appreciate your support. And don't forget to subscribe to the Kempire Radio YouTube channel, the backup channel for Kempire. And that's where you can also see some visual versions of special episodes that won't be available anywhere else.